Hey, everyone. Welcome to Locked on Lakers for Tuesday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky, Giannis Antetokounpo, future Laker. What's next?
You are Locked on Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked on Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. It's always going to be free. It's never going to be behind a paywall. And Locked on Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with well over, Andy, at this point, 20,000 subscribers to the channel, talking to each other, talking to us, leaving questions, leaving comments. We love to use them during the off season. We are certainly, Andy, in the dog days of the off season, but that does not mean stuff isn't happening. Doesn't mean that there isn't interesting stuff happening with the Lakers and around the Lakers, from Austin Reaves to reporting on Giannis Antetokounmpo and may not sign that extension right away with the Bucks.
Oh, he's definitely not. There's no maybe about that. He's definitely not signing the extension right away. The question is, will he sign an extension at all?
So we'll get to this Giannis stuff a lot, I think, before the end of the show. But we do, I think, need to start, Andy, with the World Cup. And Monday morning in the U.S. on the West Coast, it was an early game. And Austin Reaves, once again, is proving that he is not just a valuable member of this Team USA group. He is arguably the most valuable member of this group. Another very strong game for Reaves as he and his Team USA teammates, they beat Greece. It was on Monday in a blowout. They advanced to the second round, 27-point win over Greece. This after beating New Zealand to open the World Cup. That was another 27-point win as well. So
right, but in both cases, particularly Greece, the U.S. has gotten off to a slow start. This has become a thing where, if nothing else, it's led to a lot of scrutiny of the starting unit, but a lot of praise for the reserves, which have been led by Austin Reaves and Tyrese Halliburton, who seemingly like their job is to not just play well, but to bail the starters out after all these slow starts. Austin Reaves against Greece had 15 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists. I saw this stat from Hoops Hype, Raul Barragon. Austin Reaves joins LeBron James as the only Team USA players with at least 15 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists at the World Cup since 1994. The source on this, Alberto De Roa. And Austin Reaves, as you can see here, joining 3 other performances from LeBron. Austin Reaves is also, I think this is really interesting, and if nothing else, is indicative that what he does with the Lakers is real. He has been a plus-minus god with Team USA as well. Yeah. And he's been a plus-minus god with the Lakers over the last couple of years, even when the Lakers were crappy. So it just goes to show that while Austin Reaves does not solve every single problem your team ever has, he's not good enough to be built around as your franchise face, if nothing else, not now. He is a really useful player for a team with high aspirations. That's just becoming undeniable.
I was thinking about this today, and it is a lot of fun. I think as somebody who follows the Lakers, it's fun for Lakers fans. It is very difficult to dislike Austin Reaves as a player and a human. He's one of those guys that I think if you're really angry about this, the problem is likely you. All he does is wear hoodies and play golf and play basketball. That's it. That's
he broke Taylor Swift's heart.
Right. I mean, I'm not convinced they're not dating, because as you rightly pointed out, Andy, saying you're not dating Taylor Swift is exactly what somebody who didn't want people to think that they were dating Taylor Swift would say.
Honestly, because this keeps coming up and Austin Reaves keeps getting asked about it, at this point, it's become a bit as much as anything else. Taylor Swift may just need to write a breakup song with Austin Reaves just to put this thing to bed.
But I think what is interesting about this, to me at least, though, is like how I think it starts to change the expectations of what Reaves is going to do and ought to do in the regular season. Because like you start to see how he's performing. And look, none of these guys are LeBron James and Anthony Davis, but there are some all-stars on this team. There are a bunch of first-round picks on this team. And like, he's not mucking around with a bunch of G leaguers and other undrafted dudes. Like, these are legitimate future and current stars in the NBA. And he is, not just holding his own, he is thriving in this environment.
Yeah, the other thing too is he is becoming extremely popular. In the Philippines, they've been going wild over Austin Reaves when he checks into the game. If he does an ice in my veins after hitting a three, and look,
which by the way, he's doing frequently.
Yes, and there is without question residue that comes from being a Laker and some inherent popularity. You can be the 12th man, the 14th man on the Lakers, and you can get some people pretty excited by your presence simply because of that uniform.
It is easily the most popular franchise in the Philippines, and it's by a mile.
To put this in perspective, Brian and I have been the number one, according to the metrics we've seen, we've been the number one sports podcast at times in the Philippines. Not basketball podcast, sports podcast. Like, Brian and I might not be able to go to a mall in the Philippines without getting just completely mobbed. Like,
that's the only reason I don't go.
I would love to see Manila. I've heard it's lovely, but for safety reasons.
Right. The security detail alone is too expensive.
Yeah. But it is a basketball crazed country, and they love the Lakers. And yes, again, that gives Austin a boost, but it's his play as well that is endearing him to this fan base. He is, like you said, a combination of very easy to like and very easy to enjoy watching play.
It's you start to see the highlights that are bouncing around too. There was one on Monday of the Greece game of like this crossover Euro step thing where he's finishing at the butt, like all this stuff where you just keep going, and then it's like 3-pointer after 3-pointer. His percentages are insane, but it's like, I didn't know that was in the bag. It's like, oh, okay, that's there too. And look, Greece is not the Denver Nuggets. Like there's, but these are
not even
good.
Canada's team. Canada's been very good in this tournament. Right. They might end up playing
they could win. Canada,
right? They could end up winning the whole thing.
So we'll see what happens as it goes along. They have not yet faced this, but like I said, I think what this really starts to say to me, and what I really wonder about, we can carry this into the next segment, then we'll get into the Giannis stuff, is how this starts to change the way people look at Reaves and what is expected from him in the regular season. And when the Lakers start playing, what is going to be the perception of his output? What should he be putting up statistically? How much load should he be carrying? I think this World Cup experience, when you start to combine it with the playoffs, assuming it kind of plays out the way that it has, could have a pretty significant impact on the perception of this roster and particularly his role on it. So I want to talk to you about that next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel, and you can get ready for the NFL season. It's coming up really soon with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. You can use those bonus bets on spreads, player props, team props, Super Bowl props, over under, all sorts of different options. Plus, all customers who bet $5 get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. That is a great deal. So now is, again, the best time to join FanDuel. The app is really easy to use. You can use it on everything, again, from the spreads to the player props, individual games, etc. So join FanDuel and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Kick off the NFL season with an offer you don't want to miss. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL.
All right, so we'll get to the Giannis news here in a second, but if I'm right, Andy, and of course I am, and this continues this evolution of Reaves and all that, like what does he think is just rising expectations and like does that matter for him? Is that a different kind of like a pressure that's going to, do you think could to hurt him, help him? I think this changing dynamic to me is the most interesting part of what I'm seeing come out of the World Cup.
I would say unless Reaves plays really bad this upcoming season, the rising expectations, I doubt create too much pressure for him, and I doubt create issues for him because he's already surpassing what people expected to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's say Austin Reaves isn't quite at the level over 82 games and playoff change to be a legitimate third guy on a championship team. There's only
what you consider to be sort of like a third star, if you will.
Right. Like like I don't know about Chris Bosh, because Chris Bosh is a Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer. Right.
Maybe he's up there with like James Worthy for best third guy ever. But let's just say like Kevin Love or Drew Holiday.
What about like at a Brad Beal level for what people are expecting Beal to be on Phoenix?
Well, I mean, in Bradley Beal's case, I don't even know if that's a good comp because he hasn't done it. I'm talking about guys who've actually done it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say he's not at the Drew Holiday level or at the Kevin Love level yet. There's honestly only so mad you can be about that with Reaves because he wasn't expected to be, and he's not getting $27 million a year.
Right.
So if anything, I think people might be more upset that the gap isn't being made up by either D'Lo or Rui or whoever, assuming the gap isn't being made up, than actually upset at Reaves. Because again, unless he just kind of craps the bed this upcoming season where you wonder if he's either not focused, like he's caught up in this stuff, not working hard enough, whatever. I feel like there's only so upset you can get about him because he's already past what the reasonable expectations were to begin with.
I think that's fair. I guess to some degree too, what I'm wondering is, we did that show last week where we were talking about, players with sort of variance in their ceiling and their floor. Like you're not quite sure how high the ceiling goes and you're not quite sure where the floor is, but it feels like it could be a pretty big gap. LeBron and AD, the variance is how many games are they going to play? The performance is pretty well baked into the cake. You know what it's going to be. And we both kind of agreed that Reaves is really evolving into that same space where you're like, you feel pretty confident that what you think you're going to get from him is probably what you're going to get. I'm wondering too, though, like if there may be a little bit more, depending on what the Lakers let him do to try to lighten the load on LeBron and AD, especially, with D'Lo around, with Rui around. It's possible at least that, not maybe to get too caught up in the hype, that there's a little bit more ceiling there than I factored in.
Honestly, I mean, I was thinking about this because I hadn't considered the question you asked earlier, but before we get to the reports about Giannis and being connected to the Lakers, honestly, if Reaves doesn't perform at that level, I think fans are going to be more pissed off at people like you and me and media that talked up Austin Reaves than Reaves himself. In all honesty, I think people are going to be more aggravated with us and the royal us than actually Reaves, because Reaves certainly ain't the one talking up himself. Other than expressing confidence in himself, which he should.
Right.
He's not. You can say many things about Austin Reaves. He's confident. He ain't arrogant.
No, I mean, certainly not off the court. He believes he is an excellent basketball player, as he should.
Right, but all these guys, unless you really are talking yourself up so much better than you actually are, or, like describing your game as nice in an exit interview after you crap the bed in the Western Conference Finals, hypothetically speaking, not talking about anybody in particular.
Right, yeah.
Like, you should express confidence in yourself. You need that as a player to survive in a league like the NBA. But really, I think people are going to be more hostile towards folks like you and me than Reaves.
Yeah, I don't think lemondaddy.com billboards constitute a like relentless campaign of self-promotion. I think you're probably right about that. But man, I mean, there aren't a lot of things that can get fans really excited in like late August, early September. Like, whether I'm overdoing it or not, it's just fun to add this to the pile of things to get excited about with this Lakers team, because it is a big contrast, Andy, to the attitudes that we all had coming into last season. So I'm excited for that. So forgive me, Lakers fans, if I may be too excited. Have you bought your Giannis jersey yet? Or did you just keep your Kostas jersey because it says Antetokounmpo already?
Well, you know,
like think how much money they could save Lakers fans by assigning him the same number once he signs here.
Yeah. That's funny.
Sorry, Stein was I think reporting this, you know, Giannis is not going to sign this extension, certainly not right away. And so this creates the rumors, but you know, the Lakers, the Knicks are already being talked about. How we are a couple years away from something like this, but the timeline of this sort of thing actually does kind of work in the Lakers' favors. This is one of those situations where it's nice for the Lakers to be in a place where they know they have a star who is moving on. Like, it's not going to be that long. LeBron isn't going to be here in 4 or 5 or 6 years. Like, they're not trying to keep him here for 4 or 5 or 6 years. That's actually an unusual luxury for a team to have a player who is still a top 10 guy who, you know, you don't have to worry about trying to keep for that long. And that is almost unheard of.
Well, I mean, first of all, just for some context with this, Giannis, I believe it was last week, did an interview with our friend Tanya Ganguly, who's now working with the New York Times. And he said that he wasn't going to sign an extension this fall because just economically it doesn't make sense. Like, he's better off, if he's going to sign this extension, to do it next offseason. But then he added, even then, I don't know. I would not be the best version of myself if I didn't know that everybody's on the same page. Everybody's going for a championship. Everybody's going to sacrifice time away from their family like I do. And if I don't feel that, I'm not signing. At the end of the day, I feel like all my teammates know and the organization knows that I want to win a championship. As long as we're on the same page with that and you show me and we go together and we win a championship, I'm all for it. The minute I feel like, oh yeah, that we're trying to rebuild, there will never be hard feelings with the Milwaukee Bucks. At the end of the day, being a winner, that's the goal. Winning a championship comes first. I don't want to be 20 years on the same team and don't win another championship. Again, that's not Giannis saying that he's out the door, but he's, if nothing else, putting some degree of pressure on the Bucks, who, by the way, did everything possible to make Giannis
and will continue to.
Right, but if I'm the
Bucks,
know,
this reminded me of LeBron.
Right,
like when I heard this, yeah.
But I'm sure from the Bucks' perspective, there's got to be a little bit of, dude, we just gave Brook Lopez and Chris Middleton a bleep ton of money. We just brought in a new coach because it was clear you didn't want to play for the other one anymore. Like, my man. But then Marc Stein, in his excellent Substack, noted that the Knicks and Lakers are being mentioned as teams presumed that Antetokounmpo would be interested in if he was to look elsewhere. When we come back, there was, Brian, something that I noticed, just thinking ahead a little bit.
Noodling around, Andy.
Letting the wheels spin a little bit. There was something that I happened to notice that I found interesting about Giannis in the 24-25 season, which could theoretically be his last year before declining a player option, which could make 2 seasons from now a potential walk year for Giannis. And the Lakers books in 2024-2025. I thought fans might be interested in this.
Tell me more. Next. You've been mathing, Andy?
Been mathing a little bit. For people who are unaware, Giannis is currently under contract for the 2023-24 season, then 24-25, and then for 25-26, he has a player option, which if he's not going to extend, all of a sudden the 24-25 season could be a walk year for Giannis, because if he's not extending, the likelihood is he is not going to exercise that player option, which could make him a free agent at the end of the 24-25 season. And if he's not going to extend, the Bucks obviously have to think about trading Giannis, because you don't want to lose a player of his caliber in his prime for nothing. Like, that is an absolute disaster for Milwaukee. Just happened to notice that for the 2024-25 season, Giannis will make $48,787,676 American dollars. Also, just so happens that Austin Reaves, Rui Hachimura, and an opted-in D'Angelo Russell will make a combined $48,668,669, which is very, very close, Brian, to the amount that Giannis would make in that potentially final season before opting out and it being a walkaway.
Right.
Do with that information what you will, but I couldn't help but notice.
Go back through the names again, just so people hear them.
Austin Reaves, Rui Hachimura, and an opted-in D'Angelo Russell. D'Lo, for fans who have forgotten, he's signed to a 1+1, the second year being a player option. Those three together make within about like $110,000 of Giannis.
That'll get it done. And the cool thing about this, Andy, is if the Lakers do a trade like that, they'll get picks back for trading Reaves.
Yes.
So I think like the value there, because again, the Lakers are giving up the best player in this deal. I would go ahead, if I'm Milwaukee, and pull the trigger on that deal now. Take what you can get and go. That's what I would do. Look, the daydreaming here is more fun than most of these hypotheticals, because you could actually play Giannis and Anthony Davis together. You'd need to find some spacing. You got to get some shooters and all that kind of stuff. But like, there's no reason you couldn't put those two guys together. And oh my, I mean, look, we're talking about Anthony Davis getting deeper into his 30s and stuff or whatever, but I don't care. That would be so much fun to watch those two guys play defense on the same team, Andy, that I'm willing to engage in a lot of wishful thinking to make it happen.
Yeah, look, I want to make this very, very clear. Not that Brian and I are aggregation magnets, but this is based off nothing that is, asking around, reported, whatever. I just happen to notice that the contracts there line up pretty well.
No, this isn't like the deal with like Kyrie, where I'm the only person who apparently didn't put it together that Rui and D'Lo make Kyrie's salary.
No, I may be the only person who noticed this, actually. I think I have not seen...
Oh, I doubt that, Andy. I doubt that. I am sure that as soon as like a lot of Lakers fans went straight to their salary cap contracts.
I'm just telling you, I'm the only person with this type of profile in the Philippines who I've seen tweet about this or talk about it on 710 ESPN like I did earlier today. I've not seen anybody else who, I don't know, used to have a blue check mark in the old Twitter world talk about this. It did get me thinking, though, and I know next week you and I plan to talk about this a little bit more because the earliest date for this actually approaches then. But Jared Vanderbilt becomes extension eligible, I believe, September 7th.
Yeah.
If you think there's any legs to this at all, this in and of itself could be a reason to extend Jared Vanderbilt just to have the contract.
Well, I think we touched on this a little bit in the earlier in the summer. Like from a player standpoint, Vanderbilt is one of those really intriguing players of like, how much do you really want to spend on him? Like $4 million or whatever, $4.5 million or whatever they're giving him this year is a no-brainer. It is so obvious that like, yes, you hold on to him, you do it, but do you feel the same level of joy and enthusiasm for the guy if he's at 12 million or 14 million or 15, or I don't know exactly what he'll make, but it won't be 4. And so
He's not taking a 4-year, $16 million extension.
I don't think so. I would, but I'm terrible at basketball, and that by the end of that contract, I'll be over 50 years old. It'd be malpractice for Rob to even offer that to me. But this is where cap management and roster management become a big deal. Where are you overpaying potentially for the individual player, perhaps, but are you putting yourself in a position where you have the types of contracts? And look, is 4 years of Jared Vanderbilt at an extension as tradable as you want it to be? Maybe, maybe not. But you have to think of these things holistically to where, okay, and I think that probably played a little bit into their thinking with Rui, where, geez, we'd love to have him at 13 or 14 or 15, but 15, 16, 17, 18, as the salary cap keeps pushing out and, the CBA goes up and, 18 million in 3 years isn't going to be what 18 million is today. I think that same calculus kind of enters in with a guy like Vanderbilt, where not to devalue people into just being assets, their salary cap slot makes a big difference.
Yeah. I mean, and look, even if you want to say Jared Vanderbilt at this point becomes devalued as a human into an asset, he also would be making a lot of money for that, I guess, degradation. He probably can learn to live with it.
We should all be so devalued.
Real quick, before we go, we thought it was worth mentioning in case Laker fans missed it. Mookie Betts for the Dodgers was back in Boston over the weekend. His first time playing in Boston since leaving to become or getting traded to become a Dodger. Is he traded or free agent?
Traded, I think.
Traded, that's what I thought. And
I'll look it up. Keep talking.
It was his first time back, and obviously very emotional. He was an MVP with the Red Sox, won a World Series with the Red Sox, been having an absolutely amazing season this year where the Dodgers could end up winning MVP. But there was a lot for him to sort through emotionally. And he said that past interactions that he's had with Kobe helped him get through it. He said, quote, "Obviously the emotions were there and I let them come, but I also let them go. And you have to be able to separate it. Got a job to take care of. You have to separate business and emotions. And I've learned from a couple people, and especially Kobe, when I got to talk to him, and I just put it in my repertoire." And he had again, big weekend, 7 for 15, including three runs batted in games. Like it, just another sign of like how athletes from different sports took and still take inspiration from Kobe, just when it comes to the process of focus. Like focus at that level is really, really hard.
Yeah. And just, when we talked about Kobe last week, a little bit this week as well, like the influence of like in terms of just his outlook, and it is real. Like these guys are not making this stuff up. And I do think sometimes people like to engage in the mythology of Kobe. It's like, but like he really has become kind of almost like a spiritual guru for highly motivated athletes. Who those people who had a chance to engage with them, talk with them, even those who didn't, kind of understood the standard that he held himself to, and like you say, the mental approach. So it is interesting. It's always interesting to see athletes in other sports bring up his influence in that way. You see basketball guys do it all the time, Andy, but for somebody else to do it in another sport, I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah. And again, it worked quite well for Mookie Betts, who obviously is pretty capable of doing this stuff anyway, but he's acknowledging there also, even for players at his level, it's hard. It's really, really hard. So
side note, last 30 games for Mookie Betts, he's hitting .417 with 8 home runs and 26 RBI, slugging over 700. Last 15 games, slugging over 800 with a .517 average, 4 homers and 16 RBIs. And he's batting a crisp .533 in his last 7 games. So
you know what?
He's been a bit of a heater.
We don't have enough time to debate this, and I don't even know if I want to, but leave comments for us. It just hit. Is he the most popular athlete in LA right now? Mookie Betts?
After Austin Reaves?
After Austin Reaves.
Right. That's a good question. He might be.
I mean, the Dodgers are doing really great. He's I mean, he is so likable. Like Mookie Betts is so inherently likable. He's got the best athlete smile in LA since Magic. I mean, like he's just so easy to root for and so much fun to watch play.
It also helps that he's hitting, 7 million.
Well, I mean, you get popular for performance. It's not just one big personality contest.
What's funny about this, and I remember it now, I'm going back, and it was I'm trying to remember who they traded for him. It was Verdugo, Twins. They unloaded Kenta Maeda and all that. This is one of those deals where the Dodgers gave up less than equal value to take on salary, because remember they took on David Price, along with Mookie's contract, pretty significant. And the players they gave up, Alex Verdugo,
he was a big deal for a little bit.
He was, and he had a couple of good seasons. He's still playing pretty well, but not this well. Someone named Jeter Downs, Connor Wong.
I remember Jeter Downs. I do actually remember him.
Did he ever play like in the majors?
I just remember his name getting tossed around. Yep.
He's in the Nationals system now. Maybe he plays for the actual Nationals. I don't know. Kenta Maeda, Yair Camargo, and that's about it. Seems like that one turned out pretty well for the Dodgers, who also picked up Gratterall in that trade. So good job, Dodgers. Anyway, Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to see the show and hang out and tell us whether or not Mookie Betts is the most popular athlete in LA, more than LeBron, more than AD, more than Austin Reaves, more than D'Angelo Russell. And we might be able to, it's an interesting question. We'll look at it over the rest of the week. Leave us your questions, leave us your comments. Let us know who you want to have on the show as we try to look for guests between now and the beginning of camp. So plenty more to come over this week and next. See everybody next time.